Hello and welcome to Ways Women Lead, the podcast where remarkable female leaders share their personal journeys and offer valuable guidance on advancing your career as a woman in leadership. Join host Anna Gromadska and her guests as they delve into various aspects of leadership, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. This podcast is brought to you by Six Group, a global executive search and leadership advisory firm.
Welcome to Ways Women Lead. My name is Anna Gromadska and I am your host. And today I have the pleasure to speak with Micha Goebig. And Micha is the founder and CEO of Goebig Coaching and Communications, which is known for your signature coaching program in which participants learn how to build consistent confidence, greater visibility, and effective self-advocating strategies. You also work with leading mobility companies, helping their executives with speeches and global messaging. You run workshops on cultural fluency and the empowerment of women in male-dominated work environments. You're a multi-certified coach, bilingual keynote speaker, and a published author. And you describe yourself as a strategist committed to driving the success of female professionals in automotive and tech. You also serve on the Forbes Coaches Council. You're a member of the advisory board of Wonder Women Tech and a member of the speaker team of TEDx Seattle. And you collaborate frequently with the Women Automotive Network, which is the first international platform dedicated to supporting and empowering women in the automotive industry, which is where we met actually. And today we'll talk about your work and passion and how you help women to build consistent confidence. How do you do that? And how you help them to build greater visibility and create effective strategies for self-advocating. So I'm really excited for this discussion. So welcome.
Thank you for having me, Anna.
I'll start with setting a little bit of a context. So can you share a bit about your journey and what led you to founding Goebig Coaching and Communications?
Yeah, so I am originally from Germany, and back when I went to college to university, was working on my master's degree. Car industry was the cool place to work. Like big tech eventually became. It was really, I went to university in Munich, so the car industry was just like the big thing. And I started relatively early to do communications, both for OEMs, mostly in the premium segment, and work with suppliers. Again, I come from an area in Germany with a very strong supplier industry. So that was kind of a natural thing. And I learned very, very quickly, no surprise, of course, that it's a lot harder for women to work in these companies and with these companies. And of course, also buy cars, right? We know that too. And so I built an agency. Initially my agency was just a communication agency because I'm fully bilingual. And I can do a lot of, as I'm more a writer, a speaker, I can do communication that translators cannot do. So that's how I got into the speech writing. Also, my dad was a politician. That helped. I learned it at home, so to speak. And when I moved to the US, I had already done my coaching training. I had worked a lot with men. That was only men at that time, like C-levels in supplier companies to prepare them for their, let's say, financial analyst calls, press conference calls. So I had done a lot of one-on-one in addition to workshops. And I did my coaching training. And when I moved to the US and met my friends here in Seattle, which of course is one of the big tech cities, I realized that they are struggling with exactly the same issues I've experienced and heard from women in manufacturing, in car making, in those industries forever. Same thing in the end. And that really focused me in my coaching, as I grew my coaching business, into that supporting women in male-dominated industries. So that was basically where I came from. And I'm excited that the car industry I know from back home and the tech industry that is in my new home, it actually fits so well together. I mean, automotive is tech, mobility is tech. It really goes very well together.
It's becoming more and more tech. Mobility sector becomes more and more a tech sector, isn't
Yep.
it? Doesn't it? So I think it would be useful to articulate it. What are those issues that women across the globe, across these two sectors specifically that you've been focusing on, what are the issues that they typically face?
So I think the big umbrella issue is really the feeling and the actual fact that women might not be seen, heard, respected to the same extent. What that means in reality is, for instance, that women get talked over in meetings a lot. I have yet to meet a woman who doesn't have the experience that she made a suggestion in a meeting and the conversation went on as if she hadn't said anything, and then a man says the same thing, and everybody's like, that's brilliant. So that's a very common experience. Women being asked to take notes, even if they are on a director level. If they are the only woman in the room, suddenly someone says, oh, could you get us coffee, or could you take the minutes? It's incredible. So those are the actual real life incidents that come under this umbrella of just not having the same visibility or acceptance, respect. And it's often, I want to make clear, this is a downside of the patriarchy, but it doesn't mean that men do it on purpose. I want to make that clear. That's a lot of it's just societal, cultural conditioning, and women do it too to each other sometimes to a certain extent. So this is not a finger pointing. This is just a situation we have and work through to remedy. And so that takes a lot more energy, right? I mean, so if you are in a work environment where you have to prove more, and a lot of women I work with really say, I have the feeling I always have to do double the work, put in double the effort to get half the opportunities. And that's very, very overwhelming and exhausting.
Yeah, if you have to fight twice more for that same visibility and that same acknowledgement of your ideas, for example, well, you're starting from a lower bar than everyone else, so the situation isn't equal. And yeah, it's interesting that you said it's nobody's fault. I remember there was this speech by Sheryl Sandberg, who talks a lot about female leadership and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she gave this speech when she said during the Q&A, women were raising people were raising their hands to ask questions. And so she picked a few people to answer their questions. And at the end, one woman went over to her to say, how long do I have to keep my hand raised? And she said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you kept picking all the men over me and I kept my hand raised all the time. And so Sheryl Sandberg said, if I do that in my own speech about that very topic as a woman, then imagine how embedded these biases are. And this is, and this is why it's important to talk about it, because it's invisible, right?
Yeah. And I think it's really important also not to alienate men or like whoever, right? Or women who've made it to the top in those environments, who might feel that they did play by the boys' club rules. This is not a deliberate discrimination on like 99% of the people's part. But this is really just ingrained. We have to change our habits around these things. We need to talk about it. And there is societal change we need. But of course, there's also the point, that's where I focus. And it's like, it's not your fault that your career is more stressful, more exhausting, but we will not change it overnight. So you still need to build certain skills, because quite honestly, I do not want all these highly qualified, amazing women to drop out of corporate. Or I mean, if they are in big dealership organization, that's not corporate, but I don't want them to drop out
But
and
it would
become
be
yoga
such a
teachers.
loss.
I mean sorry for all these. I love yoga teachers too, but I feel that women in power positions, women in corporate, women in big organizations, they will change the world. And
Just as simple
have
as
to make
diversity.
it easier for them to and same for people of color, same for all kinds of diversity.
What a drain of talent would it be, right? If we lost 50% of our population from these corporations, it would be awful. How much less innovative and effective it would be as organizations. And what do you do to help women? So you mentioned you help them to build confidence, and I read about your unlearn talks and workshops, for example, when you focus on aspects like self-doubt and imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and people pleasing. So I understand that these are the typical barriers and challenges women face.
So that is basically what almost all women grew up with. That's a package of good girl habits. And it's so interesting. You see it with older women, younger women, Europeans, Americans, Asians. It's really, it crosses the barriers of countries, nationalities, religions, age groups. Good girl habits are really something that serve us when we're young, in school, also in university. So most of us have this: work hard, study a lot, be reliable, be supportive, be nice. Those habits are ingrained, and our parents praise us for it, our teachers, our professors. But then when women enter the workforce, in the beginning, that might still be the case, because maybe they start out as a trainee or an apprentice or a junior and whatever it is. So it makes sense still. But then there comes a point where these traits, the good girl habits, I call them, they don't serve you anymore, because this is not school, this is real life. And that's why everything I do starts with questioning and unlearning those good girl habits. It's this need to be liked, the perfectionism. Imposter syndrome can be explained so that people don't understand that it's not their fault. And that's where it starts, to realize this has served me for a long time, but it's not serving me anymore. That's hard. That's super hard to do, because our brains are like, what? Wait, this is good. This is good. And suddenly it's not.
So how do these manifest in professional settings? In what behaviors would, that self-doubt and imposter syndrome and perfectionism and people pleasing manifest?
For instance, very few women ask for what they really want. Women expect their hard work to speak for itself. That's what it does in school, right? You write your exam, it speaks for itself, you get an A, everybody praises you. That's not how business works. So that's one thing where these attitudes hold you back. Also, perfectionism. You might actually never raise your hand to present to a more executive audience, to the board, because you're too afraid. You might forever edit your presentations. You might, you might keep
It's never good
yourself
enough.
also back, just because you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. There's still so much I need to learn before I can do this, or I need this new certification, and then I'm going to ask for a promotion. And when you challenge people, it's like, you already do the job. So the certification, this is not a bar exam. You don't need it to be able to do the job legally. And yeah, but still. So people often expect, and that's basically runs into my big topic, people expect things like certifications to give them the confidence or give them the visibility so that they don't have to self-advocate.
Right.
Which is unfortunately not true.
But then I guess the opposite happens, right? That certificates, if you haven't unlearned that behavior, that certificate still doesn't give you
You will
that
find, your brain will
confidence
find another point. So for instance, I don't know, that's a situation I had with a client where I knew exactly if I can't help her do it now, she will wait for her certification in case she doesn't graduate like in the top percentile. Her brain will tell her, yeah, but obviously if I'm somewhere average here, I don't deserve that promotion either. So it's very easy for our brain to come up with the next thing that holds us back.
Because it happens unconsciously as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have to work. You have to work on really understanding that you yourself have these behaviors, that they happen automatically. In which situations? How do they manifest themselves?
Your brain wants to keep you like this oldest part, lizard brain that's responsible for fight, flight, freeze, wants to keep you back because obviously it has kept you alive, right? So this has worked. The strategy has worked. take no risks, is that part of the brain has no sense for people thriving, that only has a sense for people surviving. And staying where you are is usually a very good survival strategy. It is not a good thriving, growing strategy, obviously.
And do you see, so the women you work with, do they happen to work at certain levels of organizations or at all levels of organizations? So, certain levels of seniority, juniority, or is it all across, the levels of
It
ranks?
depends. It depends. I think the one-on-one clients I work with are mostly on a more senior level, for sure. But when I do group work or workshops, I actually think it's also super helpful for me to hear what younger women are facing, because a lot of it is the same. And then it's interesting for them to hear also, hey, this does not stop. You have to be able to be with it. So someone who is a director, a VP, still gets those bouts of self-doubt, of fear, of imposter syndrome, depending what it is. We all have our own flavor of that. But they obviously at that point need to learn, or have learned, to say, that again, okay, and they act anyway. That's the thing you have to learn. You don't have to be fearless or never doubt yourself. That's a narcissist. You just have to say, yeah, okay, and maybe, yes, of course there's more to learn, but there's always more to learn. So just overriding and acting anyway. That is what you can learn and need to learn.
It's interesting. It's interesting to know that the majority of men you actually work with are at those senior levels. So it doesn't matter that they've proven themselves over and over and over again through various promotions and completed projects and won clients and whatever it might be. Is still is the case that you might feel this self-doubt. So how much easier would the life be if you could have addressed it early in your career, couldn't it?
It would. But still, I think it's also when you're in a more senior position, you are hopefully, and the vast majority of my clients is more self-aware of where you can easily talk yourself out of things or hold yourself back. So it's good. It's really good, just like to have someone in your corner, right? It's that's why I use the coach and strategist, because with people who are on a more senior level, there might be a session really about the nitty gritty of the mindset and working on that. But there might be another session where a client needs primarily a sounding board, or say, all right, let's strategize. What would be a good approach to reach that goal? So is still the case. It's like when you compare it to having a private trainer. When I can go to the gym and do my stuff, and maybe I know what I'm doing. The moment I'm in a group, I'm already pushing myself harder, because alone it's really hard to push yourself. And when I have a private trainer, then I get exactly what I need pretty much when I need it. And I have someone basically where okay, they've got my back. I can try things. That is, of course, like to stay with the private trainer example, that's when you are allowing yourself to take more risks. So I think for me personally, I've had a coach, sometimes a private trainer too, but a coach for the last 15 years, various coaches. And I think I appreciate having that type of support, sometimes even more when I'm in a good period than when I'm struggling, because then you can really push yourself a lot better.
Really accelerate the momentum you're in. So having a mentor comes up as one of the most frequent pieces of advice leaders I interview would give to their younger selves, or would give to younger people who want to progress through roles of increased responsibility. What's the difference between coach and mentor? Would you recommend both or does it depend on the situation or need?
I would definitely recommend both. It's probably not always fully in your control to have both at the same time. And sometimes one might be more important than the other. And so that is individual. Sometimes you might need a therapist for a while, right? I mean, whatever serves you best at a point, it's all different. I think the big difference between coaches and mentors is that coaches know how to take a step back. Very experienced mentors can do that too, but a lot of mentors, of course, share how they achieved their success, but they have a different backstory. So it can be super, super helpful, but it can also increase the pressure. And what we see sometimes, I mean, I'm all in favor of mentors. But what we see sometimes with mentors is that they mentor women on different things than men. So suddenly women are mentored on confidence, which doesn't make sense. Coaches are way better at that. Mentors really do their best job when they talk so as specific as possible about how people can advance their careers within this organization or within the industry. And that also requires pretty much sponsoring. So making introductions, mentioning your name when you are not in the room, that type of thing. Mentors who are also sponsors are extremely valuable. And also for mentees, ask people you want to be mentored by, because you probably have the best sense who that might be, and really prepare for the meetings. Make it easy for the person to give you what you need. If you come with questions, the person is going to answer. If you leave it open, they will come up with what they have in mind.
So would it be fair to say that maybe coach would help you more with some behavioral changes, or whereas mentor would be better suited to help you with specific technical or career advice? So mentor should be someone who maybe is where you want to be career-wise, maybe has gone through career journey where you would want to be, whereas coach doesn't necessarily have to come from your industry, because it's more helping you to reflect, to understand yourself, how you're approaching certain challenges, and maybe help to make some behavioral changes. Would that be a fair summary?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely fair. You always, I think you always benefit if your coach also knows your industry.
So I wanted to ask you, you've been a very experienced speaker, you've been speaking at various conferences and summits. Is there an impactful moment or experience from one of these events that particularly sticks in your mind in relation to the themes of diversity, inclusion, and leadership in general?
You know, I think, and that is speaking for in-person events, there is this magic moment when, as a speaker, let's say you say, okay, you are here because you find this and this hard. Look around you, because that's the same for everyone. This is a community. You are not alone. And it's so easy, especially if you are maybe the only woman on your team, especially in those situations. Or the other women around is like, I don't know why you're struggling with this, or you don't even feel like you can talk about it. And again, that same counts for anybody who is not part of the majority culture in their company. That moment where you say, they are all here because they struggle with the same things, and people are like, oh, right. And that is, I think, more impactful than I really want to say. I do my best to give impactful talks and workshops, but I think that seeing that you're not alone is even more impactful.
And I think Women in the Automotive Network is a good example of that. And can we share the information from the upcoming Stuttgart event that you're going to share the Women in the Automotive Network in the event in Stuttgart this year?
Yeah, I'm very excited. It was an amazing event last year, and I feel absolutely honored, excited, and scared. Of course, this is big. That I will be chairing the 2024 event in Stuttgart in October. But that's exactly it, right? This is where I role model what I tell my clients. I want to do it, but it's also scary when I'm going to do it. And no, I cannot guarantee that it'll work fine. I mean, I really hope so, and I will do my best. But it's scary, and you just have to act anyway. And
I guess the difference is, congratulations, by the way. Of course, we met at this event, and I agree, it was a fantastic event, and event I've experienced what you were just talking about. Seeing all these women from multiple companies, 300 women, right, in one room from multiple leading automotive businesses, getting together and sharing experiences, and all of them saying the same thing. Actually, it feels a little bit weird to be one among a number of men in the same room. And actually, it gives me a lot of confidence and comfort to see that there are other women feeling the same. So yeah, that's it gives you confidence to continue doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah. I mean,
just knowing that there are other people.
Especially 300-400 people in the room. That is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And of all ages, not all, but of many different ages and experience levels. And just having this very supportive network. Just that, that I think that is really the most important thing. So that's also something where I say, like, if you feel you struggle, if you feel alone with your issue, especially as a woman in automotive, or in a male-dominated work environment, it's hard to talk about it. But if you find yourself a network, you will see that others have that same issue, and that will help. It will not resolve it, but it'll help.
Yeah, I guess the difference is, correct me if I'm wrong, what you said earlier made me think about it. So you said, yes, you can still be nervous about chairing this event, but you're excited at the same time. But the difference between maybe having this network or a coach and not having it is that even though you are nervous, you're still going ahead with it with excitement. And if you don't have that support, a network or a coach, you just wouldn't do it. And that's the difference.
Yeah. And fear and excitement are almost the same feeling. There's this quote, fear is excitement without the breath. And now, of course, I don't know who I'm quoting. Sorry about that. Old dude from psychoanalysis, probably, or therapy. Yeah, but it's really true, right? Fear and excitement are very similar, but with fear, you're plunging down. You're just tension. You feel the tension, and you don't really breathe. And with excitement, it's also very, very high energy, but it goes outward in a positive way. And you breathe. Yeah.
It pushes you forward. Excitement.
And that's something you can learn.
And chemically, apparently, it's exactly the same process that is happening in your body.
Yep.
Increased pulse, increased
stress.
Yeah.
For our body, eustress and distress feels the same. So eustress is euphoric stress, and distress, that's the word. So negative and positive stress, the body has the hardest time to distinguish, or cannot distinguish. So your wedding might be as stressful for you as divorce, to put it like that. Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
For the body. Not for the mind. Mind is different.
Hopefully. So in your experience, you speaking to leaders across different organizations and industries, where do you see the trend? How do you think leadership will change in the future? What's going to happen with organizational cultures, with the ways people lead others? What are the shifts that you're seeing right now? How do you think it's going to look like in the future? What will be different?
I think the mobility sector obviously is everybody in every company is out of their comfort zone right now. Right? Like individuals, companies and industries can be out of their comfort zone too, which is where growth happens. So that's exciting, but it's also where fear comes up. And that, of course, is the same in other industries too. But here in mobility and automotive and transportation, we see that very, very clearly.
And this is because of the industry dynamics, because
yes,
move towards electrification,
autonomous driving, EVs,
and
all these things.
So much uncertainty. Okay.
Yeah. So now, like an individual, companies have a choice to run with the fear or run with courage. And I mean, I am optimistic in the longer term that the future in leadership in those industries will be more diverse, will emphasize more the leadership skills that women and minorities bring, like empathy and whatever is called soft skills. Very, very bad term. But I think in the end, those things will win out.
That's super interesting. And that's very exciting, isn't it? I'm really, really, really pleased with seeing all the changes that are happening in organizations when it comes to that focus on creating the right culture and environment for everyone to thrive and feel themselves and feel supported. So it's exciting times, and I see a lot of positive change. So to close, what would be the one advice you would give to a young woman who wants to progress in a corporate world, from your experience working with people who deal with, let's say, little devils, who might be stopping them from achieving goals, what's the one advice you would give to young woman that wants to progress her career?
If it's down to really one thing, then I'd say be more selfish. I would like to explain that a little. So,
Yes.
selfish has a very bad reputation, and I'm kind of on a mission to make women more selfish, and I call it the good selfish, actually, because I really want you to trust your gut. Trust your gut and say, this is what I want. Allow yourself to want what I want, and whichever plan you follow, whichever dream you have, whichever situation you encounter, and especially when you are in a corporate structure and are a little overwhelmed. Also, I'm not saying only think of yourself, but never forget to ask, does that work for me? Is that okay for me? No matter if it's in a corporate setting, if it's with your family, really, along with the question, how does that serve others? How does that serve the company? Please always ask, how does that serve me?
I guess not enough women ask themselves that question, right? And it's not going to work for anyone else. If it's not going to work for you in the long term.
Right. And I'm not saying that you have to push everything through at once, but you need to know where you're compromising, why you're compromising, and you need to know how often. Eventually you have to say, hey, I met you on your turf there, or I met you halfway there, but next time. So you need to ask that question just to be able to be strategic about your needs and wants.
That's a fantastic advice. I would love to dig deeper in how do you help women maybe to do it. It reminds me of one interesting advice I heard from another interviewee that I had here, who said the number one thing she focuses on when helping females from her organization to progress is help them not to overthink. Which I thought, this is fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Relate to that for sure.
And, totally can. Yes.
I love it. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I am going to continue to follow your content, and it's really fantastic work that you're doing. And I can see you have so much passion for it. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in other, events, definitely Women in the Automotive Network. And thank you very much for joining me on Ways Women Lead.
Thank you for having me, Anna. My pleasure. And see you in Stuttgart at the latest, or on other events. Yeah. Thank you.
That's it for this month's Ways Women Lead episode. But there is plenty more insightful and actionable advice from where this podcast came from. Check out our website on www.six-group.com if you'd like to know more about how to build and develop diverse, inclusive, and effective leadership teams, and how to progress your career as a leader. See you next time.